Otto, Aptitude, single female-led Xier, Hahaha, thank you all for helping me solve the obstacles along the way, giving me the opportunity to do an experiment that I have always wanted to do. The blonde man continued to smile as usual. Mr. Wei. What are you doing? Xing frowned and asked, Hehe. Star core, what a powerful thing. It erodes civilization, swallows planets. Compared to it, our power is like ants. Human life is also like grass. The blonde man known as VII did not answer Star's question, but instead spread out his arms and spoke loudly in his infectious voice. In the past, I did indeed step into some forbidden fields for some reasons. Similarly, I also saw some other things. Here, I want to apologize. Anonymous guests. As a native of Belleburg, how can we not show our landlord's friendship? As he spoke, he bowed slightly and held the star core in his hand. The imaginary energy in the core began to erode him, forming a more terrifying existence. This is the most tangible manifestation of imaginary numbers. The most primitive posture of the power of imaginary numbers. Hehe, perhaps unable to compare to those towering gods. But at this moment, I truly feel it. I can now gently pry the rules. Come on. Feel the power of my original plan called false gods. Dan Heng frowned and prepared to transform. And Mr. Walter, who was far away on the train, had already stood up and prepared to throw the black hole. P.S. The protagonist is set in the same position as Otto, with indifferent emotions but not crazy criticism of a bit of human nature. Single female. Chapter 1. The New Life of Teenagers. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Ha. Ha. Wake up. Upon hearing the call, Seven slowly opened her heavy eyelids. You. He looked at the little girl in front of him wanting to say something, but his dry throat made his voice very hoarse. Humph. You guy. Forget it, take a sip of water first. Otherwise, I'm afraid you'll die of thirst at my house. The little girl may not be forgiving in her mouth, but her mind is quite delicate. After drinking the water, Wei Yi felt much better. He suppressed his fatigue and pulled out a harmless smile, saying, Hello, miss. My name is Wei Yi, thank you for saving me. I don't know what your name is. The little girl pursed her lips and said, You guy, you're not very talkative but still pretending to be an adult. Humph, forget it. My name is Xier. I saw you lying at my doorstep and pulled you back. It's called home, but this house is just a small and dilapidated wooden house that can withstand the cold wind. If it weren't for the devices in the room emitting temperature, I'm afraid, thank you very much. Your heart is as beautiful and moving as your appearance. Wei Yi gratefully said. Xier tilted her head, crossed her waist, and extended her hand, saying, Compared to your flattery, I think you should give something practical as a reward. Wei Yi remained silent for a moment, and after thinking about it, it made sense. He began to contemplate what was currently valuable on his body. After a moment of contemplation, it seemed that there was really something particularly valuable on him. But just send it out like this. Wei Yi became entangled. Xier raised her eyebrows and said, What's going on? I'm not willing to. Cut. Listening to Xier's slightly contemptuous tone, Wei Yi finally sighed and solemnly handed the thing over. I am penniless now. This is the only valuable thing I have on my body. If I find someone who knows how to sell it, I should be able to sell it for a considerable amount of money. Wei Yi spoke, caressing the dark golden pocket watch. Despite being a naive teenager, he is now so dull. Xier took the pocket watch from his hand. She scrutinized carefully. The dark golden pocket watch, warm to the touch, truly worthy of being held by that guy on his chest all along, it's precious. But it's definitely worth it. Just the gorgeous and exquisite patterns on it dazzled Xier, and she swore that she had never seen such exquisite patterns in the entire lower city area. Not to mention the sparkling gemstones embedded on it. She opened the pocket watch and a crisp ticking sound came to her ears. Oh my goodness, even the sound is so pleasant. Got rich. Got rich. Xier looks like a small financial fanatic. When she opened the watch, she found a paragraph engraved on the back. Fortunately, the dean of the orphanage often takes her to classes, and she still knows these words in general. She read the words out loud. Are you our only one? She was stunned. Wait, she looked at VII, who had closed his eyes and leaned against the ground marrow heater. At this moment, he was no longer as gentle as before, and his face was somewhat expressionless. Xier raised her eyebrows and asked, Ah. Is this thing important to you? Wei Yi opened her eyes, took a deep breath, and couldn't help but smile, saying, Who knows? Maybe. Ah. What kind of answer are you calling? Hurry up and tell me. Xier pursed her lips and asked with some anger. After a moment of silence, Wei Yi suddenly smiled and said, It's nothing, it's just a birthday gift from my parents last year. That's all. Xier looked displeased at the young man who wrote, I have something on my mind, on his face and handed the pocket watch back. Cut it. Take it back. I don't care about your stinky pocket watch. Wei Yi lifted his head in a daze, his eyes full of confusion. The girl in front of her bulged her cheeks and impatiently handed out the precious pocket watch. How to say it? For the first time, besides the butler and his parents, there was someone who showed goodwill towards him, which left him somewhat stunned in a daze. Ah. Hurry up and continue. Are you a fool? Wei Yi regained his senses, with a sincere smile on his face. He solemnly took the pocket watch and said from the bottom of his heart, Thank you, Xier, thank you. Xier blushed a little embarrassed when he looked at her like this. Strange guy. Wei Yi sat back and gently stroked the pocket watch with his hand, saying softly, Don't worry, Xier. I will repay the favor of saving my life. I will definitely. What a strange person. Xier muttered as she looked at VII, who was closing her eyes and recuperating. The encounter between boys and girls is like this. Hey. VII, don't slack off for me either. Xier looked at Wei Yi, who was wiping his sweat, and said. She is currently helping the mine move the pith ore with Wei Yi, which is a physical labor and the only job they can currently do. Very tired, with very little money, but this is their only source of income. In the mining area, they can still pick up some unwanted impurities and marrow. One piece can only be used for less than 3 days, but it is enough for them. Don't worry, I'm not slacking off. Wei Yi has adapted to the high-intensity underground labor in these days. Although he was considered a young master in the upper district who never touched the sunshine, now he is just an ordinary orphan in the lower district. The foreman has a good character, although he may deduct some money, he will not default on his debts. This is considered a good person in a somewhat chaotic and oppressive place like the downtown area. At least he doesn't want to sell VII like the previous person did. And this incident also made Wei Yi understand that in order to live a good life in the lower city area, a strong force is necessary, and no one dares to provoke. Only in this way can he and Xier live a peaceful life. On their way home, Wei Yi and the others met a resolute silver mane iron guard. Hello, Mr. Oleg, nice to meet you. Wei Yi politely gave a greeting. Yo. Uncle Tai Wei. Where's the stroll? Originally, Oleg, who had seen the sensible young man smile, stiffened when he heard Xier's words and said helplessly, I'm on patrol. Xier, if you have half of your brother's composure, I can rest assured. Xier didn't listen at all and even made a funny face. Oleg let out a helpless and relieved sigh. It is precisely because of people like the 2 children in front of them that they are full of motivation. Mr. Oleg, Xier and I won't disturb you anymore. Goodbye. Goodbye. Uncle Tai Wei. The two bid farewell to Oleg. Returning home, Xier looked sneaky. Wei Yi frowned as she looked at it. Did you make another mistake? Upon hearing this, Xier immediately exclaimed. What do you mean? Do you think I am that kind of person in your eyes? Also. What do you mean? Wei Yi nodded. Yes, and every time I go to handle it for you. Xier is choking randomly unhappy, he said, close my eyes quickly. Wei Yi tilted her head in confusion. Xier is a bit impatient. If I ask you to close it, then close it. After a moment of silence, Wei Yi let out a sigh of indulgence and said, okay. Speaking, I closed my eyes. The next moment he heard a rumbling sound. You can open it now. Wei Yi opened her eyes and saw the gift box handed over by Xier. Not very exquisite, but in Seven's eyes it is particularly gorgeous. This is. For a moment, Wei Yi was a bit confused. Xier said angrily, ah. You wouldn't even forget that today is your own birthday, would you? Wei Yi was stunned, he remembered. Isn't today your birthday? Ah. I can't sleep. Come chat with me. Ah. Don't pretend to sleep. I know you're not asleep. Okay. What do you want to talk about? I'll go to bed without saying it. I have to work early tomorrow morning. No. Let's talk about your watch. What's so easy to talk about? Besides its commemorative significance, its biggest function is to sell it for money when we can't survive. This is also the last birthday gift your father gave you. So I sold everything on my body, but I still keep the most valuable one. So how long is your birthday coming? Let me think. A month later. By the way, why are you asking this? Hehe, it's okay. Just ask. Alright. I'm tired. Sleep. Xier said sweetly and fell asleep. Looking at the gift box in her hand, Wei Yi felt a sudden sourness in her nose. He looked at the box, unable to move his gaze for a long time. And Xier hurriedly urged, quick, fast. Open it and take a look. Wei Yi held back her tears and let out a gentle sigh. Open the box. It's a puppet, looking at the color scheme and pattern, it seems like it's my own. It's not very exquisite, and even compared to my previous model in the Xingtie district, it can be said to be crude and unbearable. But Wei Yi is very happy, he is really happy. Xier, this clumsy little girl is like a ray of light shining on his empty and dim heart. He seems to have come back to life once again. He had never felt his beating heart so clearly before. Her smile and her recklessness were imprinted in his mind. Haha. Hey. Why are you still crying? Don't cry. If you don't like it, just change it again. Xier looked at Wei Yi, whose tears had broken through her dam, feeling a bit lost. Haha. No. I really like it, I'm so happy. Thank you, Xier. Thank you. Wei Yi smiled and wiped away her tears, constantly thanking her. Xier looked at Wei Yi's bright smile on her face and said with a smile, you also want to give me birthday gifts in the future, Wei Yi looked at the girl in front of her with a silly smile. In a daze, he seemed to have found the next creed. Oh my God. I am willing to give everything I can to protect her. A stream of jade light flashed by. The power called abundance awakens in the youth. And teenagers and girls have also started a new life. Chapter 2. A Selfless Doctor. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Thank you. Mr. Wei Yi. You are truly a great kind-hearted person. A iron guard respectfully saluted the young man in front of him who was dissatisfied with 14. This young man not only treated their injuries for free, but also selflessly provided relief to some orphans who had lost their parents but were unwilling to go to orphanages. What a noble person. He's just an angel. No. No, no. He should be even more noble and holy. Mr. Rod, may I ask if there are any more injured people? If not, I'll leave first. Wei Yi wiped the fine sweat from his forehead and said. Rod shook his head and took out a money bag. Looking at the bulging appearance, there should be a considerable amount of Winter City coins inside. Wei Yi pretended to be puzzled and asked, Is this? Rod's eyes showed respect and he said seriously, Mr. Wei, you are a selfless good person, but your selflessness makes me feel ashamed. If we continue to accept your kindness in vain like this, it will make us guys feel uneasy about our conscience. After a moment of silence, Wei Yi said, You know, Captain Road, I never treat wounded people for material gain. Wei Yi didn't lie, he really didn't ask for that money. I understand. We all understand. But we will be transferred back to the upper city area in a while, and it may take some time to come down again. I'm afraid we guys will die on the front line, said Rhodes sincerely. Wei Yi stopped his words and shook his head, saying, Don't say such pessimistic things, Captain Road. You are a seasoned veteran and your iron guards are also rare elite soldiers. At this point, he paused and then showed a sunny smile. You will come back victorious, and don't forget that I, as a small practitioner in the lower urban area, will be enough. As Wei Yi spoke, he took out 10 Winter City shields and said calmly, Rewards, these are all good. If you feel it's not enough, why don't you come back from the front line and invite Xier and me to a big meal with everyone? Speaking of Xier, he was stunned and then thought of something and said. Speaking of which, Captain Oleg wanted to take us siblings to the upper city to play, but you know me, I don't like to leave here, so I asked Captain Oleg to take Xier up. Rod was stunned for a moment, then burst into laughter and said, Hahaha, that old guy Oleg, hahaha. It's great, let that little girl see the real blue sky. In the next moment, he seemed to think of something inside, saying, Hey. The environment in the lower urban area. Compared to this barren place, it is indeed better for these children in the upper urban area. At the next moment, he changed his tone and said, What if your Xier is blinded by the colorful world of the upper city district and you don't have to cry if you don't leave? Wei Yi smiled and said, No, I might even think it's good, but if Xier really stays in the upper city area, we'll have to trouble Mr. Rod and your soldiers to take good care of him. Hahaha. How's it going? Little girl, you're pretty good playing in Xingtie district, aren't you? Oleg smiled and said. The only regret today is that I didn't play with that guy VII for a whole day, so that he wouldn't be as lifeless as a little old man all day. Oleg waited for Xier's response. Even a single laugh from the girl could make Oleg feel happy and pleased with his busy day, but Xier beside him did not respond for a long time. Girl. Uncle Oleg. Xier next to her finally had a response, and she also lifted her head, which had been lowered all along, to look at Oleg. To Oleg's surprise, there was no cheering or excitement in the girl's eyes, only endless anger and sadness. Do the guys in Xingtie district know? Many people in Xingtie district can't even afford to eat. How much food can their wasted food save in Xingtie district? The girl's voice is very hoarse. Oleg stared blankly at the girl and didn't reply for a long time. He doesn't know how to answer the girl, let alone how to comfort her. Uncle. I'm tired. Let's go back. Back to the downtown area. Oleg remained silent for a moment. Okay. So, the girl and the soldier returned to the lower city area, thank you. Mr. Wei. Woo-woo. Thank you so much. If it weren't for you, my husband. Wei Yi wiped his sweat and waved his hand, saying, it's okay. Although he may not listen to what I say, my suggestion is to rest for 3 days and rest for a while. However, as the pillar of the family, he will definitely not follow the doctor's advice. Tomorrow, he will definitely get up early to work for this family. As he spoke, he sighed and said, if you're not ready to rest, let him come to my place and I'll take care of him again. It's better to go to the mine directly with the disease. The woman was so grateful that she knelt down and kept saying thank you. All of this is somewhat sad, but it is a real reality. After the woman was sent away by him, he turned his head and said faintly to Xier, who had been standing outside the door. What's wrong? You've been standing outside the door all the time. If you can't stand the smell of disinfectant, just go straight to the inner room. You don't have to wait for me outside all the time. After speaking, he smiled and asked, how is it? Is Xiangqing district fun? Is there anything interesting to tell me? Xier looked at the figure with blonde hair and blue eyes, and her eyes suddenly turned red. At first, she was just feeling a bit uncomfortable, but after Wei Yi's gaze approached, Xier's heart couldn't help but feel a hint of grievance. Woo 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 woo. Wei Yi. Wei Yi was stunned and said somewhat bewildered, hey. What's wrong with you? Why are you still crying? Be good. Don't cry anymore. Did someone bully you? Speaking of which, Wei Yi's expression became sinister and fierce. Xier is now his only comeback. It's his only family now. Due to her own reasons, Xier said that even the little princesses in the entire downtown area are fine. And if it was those livestock in Xiangqing district who bullied Xier, so he will think of a way to make Xiangqing district pay the price. No. Xier weakly said, I just think you're really good. Really? Wei Yi was stunned, and then a bright smile bloomed on his originally sinister and evil face. The eyes that truly smile are gone. If Oleg were here, he would definitely complain about his death. If Dr. Natasha from the orphanage were here, she would surely be moved by the deep affection between these two siblings. Unfortunately, none of them were there, except for a little purple cat named Xier and a crazy golden-haired dog named Wei Yi. And right where they couldn't even see. Those unseen things were continuing. Lord Cocolia, the candidate has been selected and is currently in the orphanage in the lower city area. And on the seat is the current guardian of Belloburg, Cocolia Land. After picking her up, let's blockade the entire downtown area. Cocolia gave the command to chill the sergeant's spine. But Lord Cocolia. In this case, what will happen to the lower city area? What will happen to the families of the miners in the upper city area? Are you questioning my decision? Cocolia's eyes were cold. But enough. You go down. Yes. Chapter 3. The Arrival of Despair. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Hello, Dean Natasha. Natasha couldn't help but sigh as she looked at the handsome young man in front of her. As both fortune seekers on the path of abundance, their own abilities are far inferior to those of the younger generation in front of them. Hello, 7. Natasha responded with a smile, what's up with coming to me? There's nothing else going on, it's just that there have been some signs of erosion on the edge of Liuzhua town recently, which has led to a slight increase in prices. Speaking, Vaitun paused and looked out the window at the mischievous child. These children's meals and other daily necessities are probably not good. Natasha also sighed sorrowfully and said, yes. They. Wei Yi discussed with the loving Dean for a while before getting up and preparing to leave. Of course, before leaving, he took out a handful of candy from his pocket and distributed it to the children in the orphanage. Mercy. Vi knew she didn't have much empathy, so she did it just to save a hand and set a personal goal. No one can guarantee that there will be no one among these orphans who will make great achievements in the future. If there is, perhaps he can recite today's good news and provide some convenience for himself. It doesn't matter if there is no or no return, after all, the loss is nothing more than the insignificant power of mobilizing facial muscles and some low-quality candies obtained through special channels that are not worth mentioning. What? Where have all the candies you said hello gone? That's naturally feeding my lovely Xier. If it's not sweet, it's called sugar. My Xier must eat the best if she wants to eat. What did he say when he saw a silver-haired little girl looking at him in the corner? This child is too weak, causing the children in the orphanage to not play with her, and even isolate and bully her. He knew, but he was too lazy to care, or rather. Only in this way could his tenderness become a beam of light that shone into her heart. He doesn't care about anything, the only thing that can make his heart palpitate is Xier. Little Brunia, what's wrong with you? He stepped over the chattering children and smiled warmly at the little girl. Can you accompany me for a walk? The two of us. Ah. Brother Wei. Me. Blonia was noticeably stunned for a moment, clearly at a loss for what to do with VII. She spoke up and wanted to say something, but when she saw Seven smile, she suddenly lost her composure. In her eyes, VII was like a dazzling prince in a fairy tale. The shining blonde hair is exactly the same as in the picture book. So dazzling, this is her only thought now. Since that's the case, then let's go. As she spoke, she took her hand and walked outside. So does little Brunia want to eat candy? Wei Yi asked. Blonia watched as the gentle Wei's face turned red, and she shyly lowered her head and let out a gentle I dare not look into his eyes. Wei Yi smiled and suddenly developed a hint of playfulness. But Blonia, the same candy as the other kids is gone, How can I say that what I want is not candy at all? She dared not look up at Wei Yi's gaze. She was afraid that he would hate her, afraid that she would never see him again. Wei Yi looked at the little girl who looked like an ostrich and smiled happily, but there's another candy that's different. Wei Yi's brother reluctantly gave it to little Brunia. She handed the delicate candy in her hand to Blonia as she spoke. Afterwards, he left without looking back. Blonia looked at the exquisite candy in her hand and carefully put it into her pocket. So. Is our great guardian coming to our dirty downtown area to choose a so-called heir? Wei Yi narrowed his eyes and chuckled lightly, saying, hey. Is this the surplus of the builders? Even though the challenges of survival and destruction lie ahead, they still openly do something meaningful. The man next to him respectfully lowered his head and said, Leader. Do we need to take action? Wei Yi shook his head and said, No need, not even any action recently. Also, let's stop the recent human experiments. After all, we don't want to be targeted by a crazy dog and become a political achievement that calms people's hearts. Yes. Wei Yi squinted her eyes, her smile unchanged, but it was this usual warm smile that looked so chilling. By the way, I'm going to reply to Mr. Rod. Hehe, it's a farewell letter. I'm afraid we won't even meet this time. He guessed something, but he hoped it was just his guess. He has weak emotions and is difficult to empathize with. He doesn't care about human life, but even so, he can't help but hope that it's just him thinking too much. The great guardian Cocolia has left, and she has chosen a lucky one. To Seven's surprise, the chosen person was an introverted little girl named Blonia from Natasha Orphanage. He didn't think Blonia wasn't outstanding enough, but rather that her personality and talent were very good, otherwise he wouldn't waste time getting closer to her. He was just shocked that the great guardian was not pretending. Hehe, is this really looking for an heir? After thinking for a moment, Wei Yi began to develop a new plan and added new variables. Let me think. And at this moment, the big deal is not good. Leader. The Silver Main Iron Guard. The Silver Main Iron Guard has all been withdrawn by the Great Guardian. She ordered. She ordered the blockade of the entire lower city area. The man hurriedly ran to the inner hall and said. The obvious thing, isn't it? Although it doesn't conform to politicians' thinking. It's more in line with the ZB family's thinking, isn't it? Give up a worthless person, kick them away, and then peel off their skin and cramp. We should. The man is feeling a bit overwhelmed. The rift has already begun to erode the lower urban area, and he is lucky to be rescued by the leader and embark on his destiny. Having the ability to protect oneself, but where are the others? Don't panic. Kant, you are already a life traveler who protects your destiny. You need to be calm. Instead of thinking about these, it's better to think about how to deduct more fuel and water from distributing supplies in the future to make our people's lives more nourishing. As he spoke, he put down his flying pen and emphasized, remember, it's our people. Yes. The man named Kant seemed to have found his backbone and immediately respectfully expressed his understanding. Watching Kant leave, Seven shook her head. It seems that our great guardian has a bigger plan. But what can she actually plan? This frozen and disconnected world wait. Beyond the heavens. Hehe, hahaha. Cocolia, your plan is really big. I'm starting to wonder what you put on the Taiping weight to exchange for power outside of this world. Wei Yi smiled and took a sip of the alcohol-blended drink. The spicy taste, combined with the smell of alcohol, stimulated his nerves. Is this so-called wine tasty? It is obvious that there is no taste or taste other than pungent and spicy. But this can be considered good in the lower urban area, but even so, this so-called liquor will only become more and more precious over time. And eventually become a luxury goods. How ridiculous and sad, and at this moment, Dr. Wei. Dr. Wei. Help them. They're dying. He put on a white coat and walked to the outer hall. What's going on? Why are they injured so badly? Wait. This is a wound caused by a rift creature. What's going on? Watching several times more injured than usual, Wei Yi frowned and asked. It's the cracked world. The cracked world has eroded Luluo town. Now the entire Luluo town is full of monsters. Vice pupil's contract. Coincidence. What a coincidence. What a coincidence. Coincidentally, it was as if we had made an appointment. As soon as the front foot iron guard withdrew from the upper city district, a rift erupted on this side. There are two possibilities. The first one is that the rift has consciousness. The second type is that someone is manipulating the rift boundary, but he thought of another possibility that made his hair stand on end. His father was once a backup builder, and his mother was also a top researcher following Dr. Landau. He has many information that ordinary people cannot access, and her mother's insistence on researching a topic led to a tragic family crash. And the person behind it is the Great Guardian. If his conjecture is correct, the Rift Realm possesses consciousness and has an indistinct relationship with the Great Guardian. Even the current rift erosion could be her fault. He couldn't help but shudder at the thought of this, the cold sweat seeping through his back at some point. He thought of a possibility that even he finds absurd. The woman from Cocolia wants to destroy Belloberg and exchange it for something. Dr. Vi. An anxious shout came. Wei Yi regained consciousness and took a deep breath before starting treatment directly. Hehe. What exactly is the one in front of me? Chapter 4. Treatment, Human. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. After treating everyone, Wei wiped the fine sweat off his forehead and said, they are not in danger of their lives for the time being. Wei Yi glanced into the distance, which was in the direction of Luluo town. No surprise. It was only a matter of time before the fall of that place without the silver main iron guard. Even some armed forces like this are gone in the lower urban area. Even if it's my own accumulation over the past few years, it's just a dozen or so people. Although half of them are destiny travelers, these few destiny travelers are unable to stop the pace of the rift erosion. 7. Yanagi Town. Yanagi Town really? Xier, the little one, burst in directly from outside the clinic, feeling a bit disoriented and panicked. Yes, Xier. Luluo Town has been eroded by the rift boundary. After a moment of silence, Wei Yi said. Xier hugged him tightly and burst into tears. Woo ah ah. Our home is gone. Home. Wei Yi was stunned. That's where Xier found him, and the money he earned through his destiny and wisdom is located. The big house he purchased in Panyan Town is probably just a big house for Xier, and the real home is that dilapidated little house. Many places are filled with boards and debris to fill the gaps. His emotions were very indifferent, and it wasn't until Xier's crying that he realized. Losing his homeland was such a painful thing for people. Wei Yi sighed and touched the head of the little girl in her arms, looking at the busy few people in the clinic and the anxious or desperate family members. All right, Xier. Go to sleep, everything will be okay. I promise. Wei Yi's gaze became sharp. Can't. Take Rui En and the others to evacuate the residents in Luluo Town. If there is any uncooperative or disruptive behavior, you know what to do. Leave 2 people here with me. Forget it, I'll follow along and have a few people help me pick up the medical supplies. Wei Yi quickly instructed him to pick up his portable medical kit. Tell the people who came later that I went to the front line. Aya, you 2 stay, and you can learn with me for 2 years to deal with some less serious injuries. He stepped out directly as he spoke. He didn't know whether he was trying to win back the hearts of the people or because of Xier's crying he is just confused about what he wants to do now. There are many rotten people in the lower urban area, so many that they can support his partner Vox experiment, but humans are such two-faced creatures. The selfless Natasha. The smooth yet righteous Rod, the resolute legendary commander Oleg. There are too many people who can leave a deep impression on oneself. Rod has returned to the upper city district, but the others are unlikely to be absent from this disaster, so it's not too much to join in the fun on your own, right? Quick, fast, fast. Medicine. My abundant power is not inexhaustible. If you can save, save. Wei Yi kept treating the wounded. Some only needed simple treatment, while others could only shake their heads and give up. If it weren't for Oleg and a group of iron guards who hadn't returned guarding inside, I'm afraid the entire town of Willow Nails wouldn't last for a few quarters of an hour. After a busy day and night, what comes with is not exciting news, but Luluo Town has been completely lost. Wei Yi. Xier curled up in bed. She fell asleep but couldn't help but dream. Wei Yi sat by the bed and reached out his hand to gently grasp her hand. At this moment, there was no hidden fake smile on his face, no cunning schemes, nor the indifference of suspicion. At this moment, he smiled very peacefully. It seems that what happened today was not the fall of Luluo Town, but just a trivial matter. For Wei Yi, the fall of Luding Town was just a signal that forced him to plan ahead. How many people died? Who died? Have you ever recognized or not? These are all irrelevant. There were only a few people in his world, including the Iron Guards, his deceased parents, the butler who sacrificed for him, Mr. Oleg, and Miss Natasha. Besides, what is the relationship between Belowberg's life and death? Wei Yi sometimes feels indifferent, so he keeps acting and putting on an emotional look. Perhaps only in this way can he become less eccentric. Grandpa Lloyd, why are they crying? Because they feel sad. In the Golden Opera House, people of all ages are discussing touching performances. Why sadness? Because of this performance, it evokes empathy among people. Master Wei, the reason why people become masters is because of emotions. We will be sad due to tragedy, angry due to injustice, and burst into laughter due to a comedy. Grandpa Lloyd. I didn't feel sad at all. Why is that? Perhaps it hasn't aroused your empathy, young master. Grandpa Lloyd. It seems like I can't do it because of tragedy, sadness, anger due to injustice. I can't bring them in. Am I not human? Because I don't have human emotions. Xiao Wei is a bit confused. Laud smiled kindly and touched his head, gently explaining, that's because young master, you haven't met anyone who can give your heart to him. That person may be your future lover, friend, teacher, or an elder. When that person appears, young master, you will understand what emotions are. At that time, you must bring him over and let me, an old man, take a look. Grandpa Lloyd, I still want to see who can pry my young master. I will definitely do it, Grandpa Lloyd. Wei Yi's mind wandered. He thought of something from a long time ago that was one of his few childhood memories, and in his memories, it was one of his few family members. I was watching Xier's smile slowly fade away while she was sleeping. The originally cute sleeping face now appears to be anxious and uneasy. Wei Yi is also worried. Suddenly, he recalled the old butler coaxing his once sensitive self to sleep. He started learning from memories. Well behaved. I'm here. I'm here. Go to sleep now. The next moment, he hummed a gentle nursery rhyme from his memories. Xier's body slowly relaxed, and her eyebrows also stretched out. Gradually, she seemed to let go and sucked on the hand held by Vi. This should have been a warm scene. According to common sense, Vi should have emitted a brilliant smile and restrained herself from laughing out loud, but at this moment, tears welled up in Wei's eyes. With the first drop of tears falling, his tears were like a dam that had burst its banks and could no longer be controlled. Woo! He tightly covered his mouth with his other hand to prevent him from crying out loud at this moment. He remembered too much. Because of the way my parents were unable to sleep peacefully when they were out. And because of work, I looked like I was alone at home. He suddenly realized that the old man with gray hair was the one who accompanied him the most. He gave himself his most harmonious love. And now the old man has died on the way to protect him. Unfortunately, I couldn't even fulfill my promise to him. He felt his incompetence for the second time. The silent love of parents, the back of the pocket watch showing, "You are our only one," vividly, and they also died, not even seeing each other for the last time. He really wants to show Xier to them. He really wants to hold Xier's hand and walk up to Grandpa Lloyd, father, and mother, proudly saying that he has found someone who can give his heart without reservation. But he can't do it. Woo-woo. His crying cannot be concealed. His shoulders tremble. He wants to control himself, he wants to calm down. This is easy for him as usual, but now there is nothing he can do. He's like a madman now, laughing at first but suddenly crying because he thought of something. Xier woke up in a daze as she was shaken up while holding Seven's hand. Then she saw Vi crying uncontrollably. To be honest, the last time I saw him cry was when I first picked him up for his birthday 3 years ago. Why are you crying again this time? Wei Yi. Don't cry. Wei Yi. Whenever you cry, I feel uncomfortable. She gently swayed Wei Yi's arm, comforting Wei Yi, but it was because of the little girl's actions that Wei Yi couldn't control her emotions and started crying loudly. Then Xier watched him cry, feeling uncomfortable and heartbroken. She also started crying along with him. What was supposed to be a sad scene now is dramatic. Finally, the two hugged and cried together, then fell asleep in a daze. P.S. Xier is only 9 years old. She wants to go crookedly to the shooting range as a target. But originally, it was because of Seven's wild imagination that the news of her depression was spread by someone unknown. Did you hear that? Dr. Vi was heartbroken last night because he didn't save the injured person. He was crying uncontrollably. Did you hear that? Dr. Wei cried bitterly with Xier last night because he lost his hometown. He cried so hard. Did you hear that? Dr. Wei was worried about our country and people last night, and we were heartbroken. We were crying so hard. When Wei Yi woke up, he found a group of people coming to the clinic to comfort him, and the words are quite strange, but if they sound positive, then just take them down. It's all about reputation. Chapter 5. After 10 years. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. The blonde man, Wei Yi, had already closed the clinic because he was too busy. So he went straight to seek refuge with his esteemed Dean Natasha. While being lazy, she can also secretly learn, but of course, Natasha doesn't care and even strongly supports this kind of cheating behavior. Dean Natasha. No, it's time to call Dr. Natasha. After all, the orphanage has long been occupied along with Liuzhua town. Dr. Natasha, she is a gentle person. Perhaps there may be some girlish underbelly blackness at times, but in short, she is a gentle and steady person who matches her age. The howitzer looks really good, of course, this was before Wei Yi was caught stealing alcohol, that's right. Wei Yi has a bad habit of craving alcohol since drinking inferior wine. His physique is particularly abnormal. After mixing with water, it has no effect on him at all, so, Wei Yi. Alcohol is not meant for drinking. Didn't you know it could lead to alcohol poisoning? Natasha's lungs are almost bursting with anger, thanks to her free time this afternoon to check for alcohol. Found one bottle missing. I don't even care about you when you drink. But the way you drink alcohol is really frustrating. That's medical alcohol. Is it something to drink? Why didn't you drink to death? Wei Yi can only say, Destiny Traveler, it's wonderful, isn't it? Dear Nada. I think I can explain. For example, was it accidentally spilled by me? Wei Yi smiled and lied. Natasha's forehead has a Chinese character, she really doesn't understand. Back then, a little one was cute and cute. Where has the sensible child who can dress up as a girl in a small skirt gone? Why have you been disabled for over 10 years? Why is that smile so cheap? Just look at it and get angry. Not to mention the shortage of supplies in the lower urban area. Not to mention that medical alcohol is not a beverage at all. I won't talk about you eating herbs as vegetables back then. You still drink alcohol as water. If this continues like this, my small clinic won't be able to accommodate you, Buddha. It can be seen. Nada is really angry. Xier appeared at the door at some point and then looked at Wei Yi with a dying look. Wei Yi smiled helplessly and then stood up to help Natasha straighten her slightly wrinkled coat, saying, Natalie, don't worry. I have already entrusted Sanbua with writing a letter to Uncle Rod regarding medical supplies. He is now a member of the builders and can bring more supplies down. In addition, I also asked your mother for a medical supplies, which is expected to come down soon. That's it. Seeing Seven's playful smile, Natasha frowned and asked, what is it? Wei Yi learned an old language and said, Child, has it been very difficult to live in the lower city? Ah. I can only do my little to help, old lady. Is Nada doing well? She's almost 40 by the time, isn't she? At the next moment, his tone changed. Has she found a boyfriend? Does she have someone she likes? Do she have children? She's not single, is she? Is she in a relationship? Wei Yi was afraid that Natasha wouldn't believe him, so he took out the letter directly. Degree, silence. I didn't expect that. After years of no contact. The first letter was actually urging marriage. Watching Natasha's tense expression, I nodded in satisfaction before taking out a carefully prepared letter. There are actually 2 letters. Natasha is preparing to undergo a craniotomy on the disfigured slut in front of her. Hi, I should leave now, so I'll leave you some space to remember goodbye. Don't thank me, he pulled Xier, who was watching the play at the door, and ran away. No. Nada's going to beat you up, why are you pulling me to run? Xier said helplessly. Wei Yi smiled and shook his head, saying, when you see Nada drop a little pearl, you'll be beaten with me. Ha! Just a letter that cares about life and urges marriage. It's not this one, it's another one. Wei Yi put away her smile and sighed a bit melancholy, saying, Nada's father passed away 3 years ago, and Nada didn't know. So, do you understand? Xier fell silent. So, farewell is the scariest thing in the world. I didn't feel it before, but now I'm afraid of it the most. Wei Yi said and made a funny move. Xier, who was originally feeling a bit uncomfortable, was amused by Wei Yi's funny appearance. Can you have a regular shape? As he spoke, he complained, where did you go from being calm before? Why are you so childish now? Wei Yi smiled and took Xier's hand, saying, because I didn't understand many things before, but now that I understand, of course, I need to do what I haven't seen or done before. After crying back then, my whole person went smoothly. It's like being reborn. As he spoke, he ran forward from his own perspective. Hi Huck, did you miss your think tank? Wow. It's Uncle Vi. Xier paused and almost fell. How old is Wei this year? It seems like 20.5, so. Ba. Forget it. Stop thinking. And Wei Yi, who played with Hyuk, showed her reluctant sadness in a place where Hyuk and his companions couldn't see each other because in his plan, the newly born Bellowbird did not have a person named Wei Yi. Either one becomes a twisted monster, self-exiled. Or one becomes a slave to some higher level existence, unable to control oneself from then on regardless of which one is no longer related to freedom and peaceful life. But I won't be afraid of fear, because in order to create a world that can protect that girl named Xier, I must do so. The Great Amber King. If you can catch a glimpse of me in a stunning moment, please bless me. And while they were all living their ordinary lives, it seemed like a star had fallen into the snowy wilderness outside. The gears of fate began to rotate. Bellowburg, Upper City District. Blonia Rand, the successor of the Great Guardian and the leader of the Silver-Maned Iron Guard, was in great distress and confusion at this time. Her childhood memories were very blurry, and she couldn't bear to lose that candy even though it had been over a decade. Every time she wanted to throw away the candy she had deliberately frozen, she felt very scared and sad. Strange, very strange. And every time I think of a golden silhouette, it's very blurry, and I don't even know what it is. This has been bothering her for a long, long time. Oftentimes, the courses are packed and she can't hold on anymore. But just taking out this candy and looking at it will make her feel energized and motivated. Why is this? Exactly. On the other side, Rod, with gray hair, sat in the office. Looking at the letter sent by the young man who had saved himself and his comrades, I rubbed my temples with a headache. There isn't much on the letter, but the summary is, the Great Guardian Cocolia is not trustworthy, the truth hidden behind the cold wave. Rod only feels a chill in his spine. He won't doubt what Vei said. Because by saying so, what the so-called Great Guardian did can be explained. Fire team moving forward 20 meters. Sukabule. I see you grow 20 meters. Hey. It's a tumultuous autumn. Chapter 6. The Turning Point in Dead Water. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. I heard Sangbo brought a few people from the Upper City District down. Damn it, it's just causing trouble for Nada. Xier complained angrily. But Wei Yi doesn't see it that way. He knows that everything Sangbo does has his own purpose. He won't bring people down suddenly. Unless they are different. Something different can make him have some fun. He suspected a long time ago that Sambo was not an ordinary person. Whether it was traveling back and forth between the upper and lower urban areas without obstacles. His eerie abilities and inexplicable work style. The most important thing is, he suddenly appeared. Emerging out of thin air and blending in with the people in the lower city, he only thought of one possibility: Sangbo. It's impossible for him to come from either the upper city district or the lower city district. Excluding all impossibilities, there is only one possibility. This dumping merchant Sangbo, from Tianwai. Oh my god. What kind of scene is that? Hahaha. Mr. Wei Yi, you are really shining with me. Do you have anything worth looking for? Or rather, what do you want? Let's go back and try our best to find it for you. That's the price. The blue-haired merchant smiled with a market-painted face. A typical appearance of an unscrupulous businessman. My friend is really a sincere person. There aren't many people who are so sincere. I don't know. Would you be willing to accept my friendship as a small doctor in the downtown area? Said Wei Yi with a very grateful expression and laughed heartily. Sangbo was stunned for a moment and said with the same excited expression, "Is it true? Where is that? Dr. Wei. You are my old Sangbo's forever friend." Wei Yi and Sangbo both looked regretful when they met. Kant's eyes twitched as he watched from the side. It can only be said that he is truly the leader of his family's disdain, and he has a feeling of a perfect match with this well-known slut, Sangbo. Kant. Quickly bring over the fine wine that I have treasured in the upper city district for many years. Tonight, I will stay drunk with my friends. Kant reluctantly took out the wine that Wei had instructed him to prepare in advance. He specifically said not to prepare cups. Hey. I'm really lacking in consideration. I only brought fine wine today and forgot to bring a container. I'm afraid I won't be able to drink with you today, my friend. Wei Yi looked sad. Sanhua smiled and flipped out an exquisite wine glass, which seemed to be quite expensive. Where's that? Dr. Wei, I don't lack anything. Friend, you're still calling out to Dr. Wei. Wei Yi pretended to be somewhat displeased and said. Blame me. Friend. I'll punish myself. Speaking, Sangbo poured a glass and drank it all in one gulp. What a massive amount. It looks like we're friends now. Friend. Best friend. Best friend. Absolute best friend. Then the two of them laughed heartily. A reunion of brothers that has not been seen in many years. What do you say? It's quite strange. It's better to say this is their first formal acquaintance. Previously, it was just a nodding acquaintance. Kant looked at the two people who had already started drinking a toast and said he had no eyes left. So. Aren't you going on patrol yet? Wei Yi smiled and asked. So you're not going out today? Xier looked at Wei Yi, who was wrapped in a blanket and looked like a caterpillar, and asked in response. Xier, you know. Men always have a few days a month. A few days of depression and anxiety. Xier's mouth twitched, knowing that he was starting to fall ill again. Then I'll leave first. Goodbye. After seeing Xier leave, Wei Yi's smile gradually narrowed. Her emerald eyes revealed a different expression. Hahaha. Best friend. If you have anything to say, let's just tell old Sangbo. If you can help, old Sangbo will do his best. Sangbo looks like I'm very arrogant and begging for help quickly. And Wei Yi still had a smile on his face, but he just asked Sangbo a question in reverse. My friend, I don't know. What kind of scene is it outside this day? The black one is like the ceiling of the lower urban area. If it weren't for the reflection of the sun's light from the stars, the spectacle might be more splendid, but after looking at it for a long time, it may not be very eye-catching. Sangbo spoke in a joking tone. But Wei Yi understood that he was not joking. Perhaps that's how the starry sky is. It's really desirable, to put it bluntly. I have always had a starry sky dream below, but unfortunately. The wind and snow outside the city, the erosion of the Rift Realm, these are all problems that have been bothering me for a long time. He smiled and looked at Sangbo, then said calmly, Sangbo brothers. Do you have any good ideas? Sangbo waved his hand indifferently and said, "Hi, friend. I don't have the time to solve these things for Sangbo, but..." Sangbo closed his mouth halfway through the conversation. Wei Yi stood up with a smile and personally poured a glass of wine for Sangbo. Wei Yi, listen attentively. Things from outside the world naturally need to be solved by people from outside the world, and heroes from other worlds defeat demon kings to save the world. That's a great script, isn't it? Sangbo smiled helplessly and said. Oh. My friend, Bellowberg hasn't seen anyone outside for so many years. You know, the last time I saw someone outside was in the textbook my tutor gave me. Sangbo didn't give a direct answer, but instead looked intoxicated with fine wine and said in a perfunctory tone, "Hi, my friend, I can't be in a hurry. I can't eat hot rock crab if I'm in a hurry. Maybe someone from outside will come in a few days." A ray of inexplicable light flashed in Seven's eyes, and the next moment he burst out laughing with a rather cheerful expression, "Hahaha. You're right, my dear friend. I'm in a hurry, and this is really a dreamy script. I don't know. What help can I provide for this performance?" Sangbo thought for a moment and said, "My old Sangbo prefers to let nature take its course. Of course, if it's brother VII who excels in acting on the spot, then my old Sangbo will naturally be even happier. Hehe, is this like this? Do you have any dear viewers?" "There is a sea of people." Wei Yi smiled even happier. He did not feel even the slightest bit of anger because his home, the difficulties and despair in his life were seen as dramas. On the contrary, they are very happy and happy. Because the more relaxed and comfortable they are, the more they can prove that this desperate situation that must be crossed by draining blood and grinding bones is not worth mentioning in their eyes, and to solve this disaster, we don't need to give anything. All we need is a drama. How cost-effective. Cheers to our friendship, my friend. VII squinted and smiled as she raised her glass. Sangbo still replied with that unscrupulous merchant smile. To our friendship, cheers. After speaking, Wei Yi drank the wine in one gulp. After finishing his drink, he poured another glass for himself and stood up to pay homage to an abandoned TV. "I also respect you, my friends." Next, Dr. Vi is also going to join this drama. "I hope my performance can bring you some joy. Here's a toast to your friend who is watching." Chapter 7. About the Wanderers. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Dare to cause trouble in the land of underground fire. Do you want to be beaten up? Xier looked angrily at the homeless person who dared to shoot, and said in a gloomy tone. A few homeless people saw Xier, and although they were a bit dissatisfied, they still curled their lips and said, "Since Xier is the one who wants to protect this iron guard girl, we will naturally sell you a thin piece of noodles for the sake of the doctor's face. Let's go." He walked away with a few subordinates. "Oh my goodness. Thank you very much, Sister Xier. Otherwise..." Sangbo approached with a smile on his face and was interrupted by Xier before he could finish speaking. "Shut up, Sambo. Do you still think the downtown area is not chaotic enough? Just now, while I was patrolling, I received a notice that a group of unknown wanderers are causing trouble in the big mining area. Oleg's head is currently maintaining order there. I have to go over soon too. I don't have time to hang out with you here." Sanwa quickly stopped and said, "Oh my. Xier. Isn't that a coincidence? The people I brought with me are exactly the talents that Oleg needs. Look. Why don't we take a ride?" "Humph. I can't or don't want to manage it. If you want to follow me, just follow me and don't cause any trouble. Especially you. Miss from the upper city district. This is the lower city district, so it's best to keep your delicate appearance in the upper city district for me." Blonia was displeased by Xier's words and retorted with a red face, "I am a member of the silver-maned Iron Guard. I am not a delicate young lady. Humph, who knows? Xier said contemptuously with a nonchalant expression. If you want to see the boss, keep up. Can't. Are you saying? Carls wants to establish his own family. Ready to betray our big family. Wei Yi has now changed back from the appearance of a caterpillar, and now he is as elegant as usual. And dangerous. This is really sad news. It means our partner is missing another one. Speaking, Wei Yi put on a look of sadness and sorrow. Kant looked at VII speechlessly, killing and then killing. Why is he so sad in literary attire? What a playwright. I remember Carl's younger brother wanted to be the leader of the homeless camp for a long time, right? Then I'll give him a chance. What? Just kill the betrayer to show loyalty. Wei Yi said as if she had come up with a good idea. I don't think it's good. If he probably won't do it, after all, it's his blood relative. Besides, if he does, it proves that he's a scapegoat. I wouldn't trust anyone like him, let alone you. Kant shook his head and said. After working as a microphone for so many years with my own leader, I still understand these things. The successful development of the wind and snow immune medicine is due to the people that our family leader plans to catch every day. This also leads to the fact that the still alive bad embryo wanderers are either powerful or huddled together for warmth at that time. Even terminally ill patients would sign agreements to test drugs for him, and some of them succeeded not only in curing the disease, but even had a slight resistance to ice and snow. Make Wei want to make something big. However, Wei Yi's external conscience effectively restrained him and made him give up some ideas. In the end, it led to the experimental subjects being the same group of bad people from the downtown area, such as... What was the name of the former owner of the boxing club? Forgot. It's not important. Anyway, I was pulled onto the experimental platform, and by the way, Wei Yi also added an industry. How good would it be? You're right, Kant. But in my future plans, Bellowberg, who has been reborn from the ashes, doesn't need such a black glove anymore, understand? The two brothers were abandoned from the beginning. Wei Yi smiled and explained, actually, Carl must have discovered my thoughts, which is why he rebelled and even tirelessly prepared funds to disobey me. But obviously, he really dotes on his younger brother. He didn't even tell his dear brother Ryan such a desperate guess. Hahaha. I can't bear it anymore. Speaking, he took out a letter. Actually, before you received the news, I had already known about Carl's rebellion in advance. Guess who gave me the tip? Kant sighed with emotion. How despairing it would be for Carl to desperately escape from the brink of death, only to be betrayed by the person he wants to protect. Guess what I promised him again? Hahaha, I promised to save his brother's life. Until I let them meet in the future that I plan to accomplish. We never lie. Let's bury the two brothers together later. Kant remained silent for a moment and commented, Leader. You're really a beast. It's normal, my friend. Isn't that why I took them in? I remember you guys kept reminding me that they weren't good people. After all, they were born bad embryos, just like me. Waste utilization. Waste utilization. Well, besides, the path of destruction is quite strong, making it easy to use as a thug and knife. Kant is somewhat speechless. They all know that the leader is a cold-blooded person in a broad sense, but they still steadfastly follow him. Because he promised a beautiful tomorrow, and they knew that this leader never lied. Even if it means death. Never hesitate to die. He may be a villain, but for them, he is the savior. Wei Yi shook her head and said, All right, don't think about the two of them anymore. Since their ending has been decided, there's no need to discuss it too much. Why don't you tell me the news about those outsiders? I'm very curious. Kant thought for a moment and said, How can I put it? Strong is indeed strong, and from my perception, I seem to be unable to defeat the three of them, even Xier. Although one of them is hidden deep, I can consciously feel that he is very dangerous. After thinking about it, I came up with an intuitive unit for measuring combat effectiveness for comparison. I can hit two of you. What? Wei Yi was stunned and couldn't help but retort, I am stronger than you. It's not an exaggeration to say that I am the strongest in the lower city area. I will still use you as the measurement unit. Kant remained silent for a moment and said, I can't fight without refuting, can I? Yeah. I believe in your judgment, and then I'm just a weak doctor without your strong power, said 7 indifferently. 6. Kant skipped the topic and continued, the three of them claimed to be the unknown pioneers on the Star Dome train, who came to solve the Star Core and said that by solving the Star Core, they could save Belloberg. Roar, are you indeed the savior and the hero of the other world? Continue. On March 7th, that pink-haired girl, a life traveler who protects her destiny, was wearing a shield that made me envious. If I could wear such a thick shield, I would dare to go face to face with Swallow. You can't beat it. Swallow is actually quite strong. Continue. What are you waiting for? Upon hearing Wei Yi's urging, Kant sighed and continued, she seems a bit innocent. I understand, he's a fool. I didn't say that. Continue. Wei Yi knows it's a bit impolite to evaluate someone like this. But based on previous surveillance, it seems like he's really dumbfounded. She also seems to have a special hobby of photography. That's quite normal. But the next moment, his tone changed. But her other companion named Xing's hobby is particularly abnormal. Do you know what her first thing when she wakes up is? It's flipping through the clinic's trash can. Puff, Wei Yi smiled. Don't laugh yet, what's even more outrageous is still ahead. In just a few hours. She actually flipped through the trash cans in Panyan town. Can you understand? She even hugged the trash can and said, marry me. Beautiful trash can lady. I feel my brain trembling. Hahaha, it seems that our heroes also have their own small hobbies, what about that cold-faced little green dragon? Wei Yi asked. Oh. That. Wait. Do you know that? You wouldn't have collected all the intelligence on your own before the intelligence team collected it, would you? Wei Yi didn't speak, just showed a peaceful smile. Belloberg cursed. You even knew and asked me to say it. Kant is a bit angry, and his own leader is making fun of himself again. Come out, I've been following you since just now. Ah. Who? Sangbo asked with a puzzled expression. The next moment, a small drone flew out of the dark corner. Electronic synthesis sound system starts. Huh, my friend, don't be nervous. I don't have any malice. Before you show any malice towards the downtown area, Sangbo widened his eyes in disbelief and said, Old Wei. You old covert follower of me. The drone continued to emit a somewhat disdainful sound. Yeah, a fair and honest tracking. Dan Heng's mouth twitched, tracking. Still openly. I have no ill intentions towards the downtown area, and if possible, I would like to help you get out of your current situation. Perhaps you may not believe us. Before finishing speaking, the drone interrupted Dan Heng's explanation. I believe you, Mr. Dan Heng. It's better to say that I really can't think of what you're after in our small downtown area. Money. It's funny, isn't it? The poor and fast people in the downtown area are cannibalistic. Where do you have resources and money? Power. Well, with Mr. Dan Heng's skills, there are only a few hands that can compete with you. Where is there any power that can be pursued? Not to mention that we have been apart for over 700 years, technology and those of you who wander the stars from afar seem like jokes. As for women and status, I feel that even if Mr. Dan Heng is not someone like this, He may not necessarily look up to these yellow-skinned and crooked fruits and jujubes in the upper and lower urban areas. Compared to the lower urban areas, if you want women and status, the upper urban area is the best choice. But you still came to the downtown area and took action. I racked my brains thinking and thinking. Perhaps only the most unlikely thing. Kindness is the fuel and motivation that drives you to take action. As he spoke, his tone became respectful and he continued, "Actually, I am a villain. Many times, people curse me and want me to die. But as despicable as I am, I still admire noble people. Here, VI Apocalypse extends his highest respect to you. Thank you for coming all the way to save this dying world." He is speaking the truth and also putting a high hat on him. There's no way, life or death. It's normal to have a little dog. Old Wei Yi ah. At this moment, Sangbo suddenly spoke up. "What's wrong? Just now when you said that there were only crooked melons and cracked dates in the city, I had already recorded it and prepared to show it back to Sister Natasha and Xier." Sangbo smiled triumphantly. "You scumbag is calculating me." Chapter 8. Mr. Swallow, if you can't speak, you can skip it. You are listening at novelfull.audio. So you've been in contact with them for a long time, but you still want me to foolishly report intelligence to you just to make fun of me? Kant asked expressionlessly. Yes. Wei Yi was very certain without any hesitation. Although those who oppose Wei feel that Wei is a demon, a cold-blooded monster. But in reality, Wei has always been easy to talk about and has no airs when it comes to issues that do not involve Xier or the preservation of the lower urban area. If you can guarantee that Belloberg will explode and you can protect Xier, he will directly raise his head to meet, in the physical sense of raising his head. Overall, it can be understood as some neurotic obsession, but for those who are truly good to their confidants, there is nothing to say. It's just that the smell of crumbs is too strong. Why are you a true confidant? Because there are quite a few superficial people who have been deceived into being so-called confidants, almost all of whom are used by Wei Yi as abandoned children. On the surface, there is no difference between Wei Yi and himself, but Wei Yi occasionally brainwashes his brain and hides some ideas. And only shows superficial meanings, even his. Wait. This B wouldn't use himself as a stupid warrior, would he? Looking at Wei Yi's smile, he increasingly felt that it was possible. But it doesn't matter, even if this slut wants me to die, I will compare my middle finger and charge forward with the explosive bag on my back. Hiss. Wait. Did I also get PUA? Wei Yi looked at Kant, who was performing the Immortal Boat Opera, and smiled, saying, "All right, I'll go to the big mining area first." "Where are you going for what? Is the big boss making his final appearance?" "Quite fitting." Hey. You still need to take action. Watching the self-disciplined fighter grizzlies start preparing for an attack, March 7th began to shout. "Please be gentle with Pascal. Try not to harm them." Clara, a girl with white hair and red pupils, said weakly. "Let's go, Clara." The tall robot next to him, Svero, had a red light flashing in his eyes. "Please stop, everyone." A sound sounded. Everyone looked around and saw that the person who came was none other than Wei Yi. It has to be said that his time was just right. Identity confirmation, physician from Panyan Town, and system agreement, identity confidentiality. Repairer Wei Yi, considering your identity, I allow you one opportunity to make an argument. Ah. Who is this person? That big guy just didn't want to communicate. March 7th exclaimed in surprise. Dan Heng raised his head slightly to greet him. On one side, the star looked at Wei Yi's face, holding his chin in contemplation. Ah. VI, it's dangerous here. What kind of fun are you, a weak doctor, joining in? Xier said anxiously. Oleg heard a speechless expression on his face. 3 punches to defeat his beloved disciple Luca. Is he a weak physician? He's weak. What are we old folks? Waste. But I know that Wei Yi likes to act weak in front of Xier. TSK, have you seen too much of the city's Iron Guard when? The 3-year period has arrived. Respectfully welcome the leader of the Iron Guard. Don't worry about Xier, I'm still a little stronger than them. After calming Xier, he bowed to Swallow and Clara. Hello, Mr. Swallow. And lovely Clara. Clara blushed and hid behind Swallow. /////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////////// or you will miss this opportunity to discuss. Okay, it seems that our dear Mr. Swallow doesn't like my polite words, so let's get straight to the point. Please stop attacking my friend and give us this vein, said Wei elegantly. Instead of getting angry at the interruption, Suero was obviously silent, and the next moment he continued to say, in the system assessment. Resources are being transferred, mental illness is completely solved, and you may need it. Wei of Panyan Town. Puff. On March 7th, Xier and Xing smiled unkindly. I thought I was a floor sweeper, but who knew I was just a floor sweeper? Why don't you listen to me first? Wei ignored the three girls next to him who were giggling and continued. As a collaborator, I will give you one last chance to speak. Swallow's tone remained cold. My plan has begun. This is the first move. Wei didn't say any conditions, he just said a never-ending sentence. In the system evaluation. Calculation is blocked. In the next moment, Swallow looked at the three pioneers again. Discovering variables. Adding variables. Calculation result. You are indeed preparing to implement the plan. At this moment, the synthetic sound of inorganic matter became somewhat solemn. Wei from Panyan Town. Are you really ready? No matter whether the plan is successful or not, you will not have a good ending. Wait. What do you mean? Swallow. What do you mean? Xier was still laughing at first, but when she heard Swallow's words, she immediately became anxious. What are you guys going to do? Wei smiled and waved his hand at her. It's nothing, the power is shrinking a bit, it's just that there may be an abandoned son sacrificing in my organization. I don't believe it. You guys. You've been hiding from me since you were young. It was like taking Kant and the others in. It was like opening a clinic. It was like buying such a big house in Panyan Town. You didn't tell me anything. Her eyes turned a little red as she spoke, and she could feel that this man was deceiving her again before. She's not stupid. She can see it. She just didn't think about it. But this time it seems like he's going to have an accident. You can't treat yourself as not knowing. Can you wait for me to go back? Xier. I will explain to you when I go back. Wei looked at Xier with a gentle and watery gaze, his soft voice as if truly soothing the injured cub. Go back, you must give me a good explanation. Xier said angrily. March 7th and the stars seemed to feel full. And Blonia was already stunned when he appeared. I'm sorry Mr. Swallow, I made you laugh. Wei smiled on the surface, but in her heart Bellowberg cursed star. Swallow. If you can't speak, you can shut up. In the system detection. Wei from Panyan Town, your heart rate just increased significantly. It can be inferred that your emotional index has noticeably changed. If you can't speak, you can shut up and listen carefully to me. Detecting behavior, retrieving conclusions from databases, consistent with human observational behavior. Becoming angry from embarrassment. Wei fell silent. He didn't expect that his eloquent self would be slightly overwhelmed by a robot. Silence is tonight's VI. Chapter 9. Lies. You are listening at novel full.audio. Mr. Swallow. Stop talking. Clara tugged at Swallow's coat as a signal to stop talking. Even Clara could feel the low pressure around Mr. Wei's side. Okay. In summary, VII from Panyan Town, your request has been approved. Now you can dispose of these mines as you please. Clara, let's go. As he spoke, he left with Clara. Ah. It's just over. Did you get a vein for nothing? March 7th feels a bit unreal. It looks like this, Miss March 7th. Wei smiled and nodded. Just as he was about to say something more, Xier pulled him straight back. Ah. Oleg, and you guys, I'll take this guy back first and ask him what he's going to do. I won't be with you anymore. Hey. Wait. Xier. You let me finish speaking first, otherwise it will appear impolite. Wei began a new round of struggle. I don't think so. Star crossed his waist with both hands, revealing a joyful smile. Shavings. Too much. The taste is overflowing. Amber King is up. I suspect her path of destruction is fake. Her true identity must be a happy and joyful person. Wei turned his gaze to our cold-faced little green dragon Danheng, hoping to be saved. Huh, Mr. Danheng, should we say we've met for the first time? Or haven't seen each other for a long time? On March 7th, I opened my eyes wide and said that I didn't expect the versatile teacher Danheng to have friends on such a planet. It should be considered goodbye. However, since it hasn't been more than 20 systems since the last communication, it won't be long before I see this word. Danheng rubbed his forehead with a headache and said. Just as he was about to say something more, the star covered his mouth. You can reminisce about the past anytime. Xier, go and review him first, and do whatever you want after the review. Danheng has no objection to this either. Starry, I look like a great person and say. That graceful expression and the sneering look at Wei I feel dark about saving the world for the first time. This is Wei's only idea. Seeing such a joyful savior, Vi only felt a darkness before her eyes. Is there no room left? Xier knew that Vi was playing tricks again and trying to fool herself. Don't just fool around like this. You must tell me your plan. Wei thought for a moment and finally smiled helplessly. My original plan. How can I put it? If you don't understand or understand it, let me explain what I need to do. Actually, a long time ago, I was thinking about how to save this endangered world. Wei looked at Xier and said seriously. Xier lowered her dead fish eyes and said, to be honest. Wei said awkwardly, to help you survive better and save this endangered world. You know, I never lie, let alone deceive you. Do you lie very often? Xier asked in reverse. Have I ever told a lie? Isn't it that every time I tell the truth, no one believes me or you guys guess it wrong? Wei opened her emerald-like eyes and said with a somewhat aggrieved expression. Okay. It has to be said that deceiving people with the truth is also a skill. You know, this kind of desperate situation will inevitably lead to bloodshed. In my original plan, many people would die in the lower city area because of my own reasons. And then my gang. Cough, the team will also make some sacrifices. Wait. Your gang. Xier caught the key point. It's a team. Oh, forget it. It's up to you. That's right, actually I have my own influence in recent years. Wei adjusted his clothes and said, the recent homeless camp was actually managed by my subordinates. Ah. So you ordered them to grab the mineral deposits in the large mining area and attack the miners. You bad guy. March 7th is first dull, then shocked, and finally angry. You villain. Xing was learning from her appearance and tone while speaking. Danheng silently covered his face. Xier's eyes were also somewhat dangerous. Focus, girls. It's from the past. If their violations were not too serious, I wouldn't have dealt with them. After all, you can't expect a group of immoral thugs to take care of yourself. But recently, my subordinate seems to have his own ideas. He betrayed me and was preparing to start his own business. I'm really sad. Back then, I took in the supplies they gave them to live on, the opportunities to survive, and their identity and status. I didn't expect them to betray me like this. I'm sorry. I don't know. March 7th said with some guilt upon hearing it. I don't know. What's wrong? Starry hands akimbo, very proud. Dan Heng made up his mind to switch shifts with Uncle Yang at his next destination. Speak up. Don't divert my attention. Xier said directly. This trick won't work if used too much. After being fooled for over a decade, even fools have become smarter. Okay. Actually, as Mr. Dan Heng and his team said, the cold wave and rift are likely to come from the Star Corps. You know Xier, I used to be from Xingtie district, and even a young master. Wei Yi continued, my mother once followed Professor Landau's research topic, which was star nuclei. And it was also because this incident touched the Great Guardian that my family was destroyed and killed. How could it be? Blonia exclaimed in disbelief. How impossible. When the so-called Great Guardian gave up on the lower city, I understood she wasn't a good person. Xier snorted disdainfully. Based on my connections in the upper city area and some reasoning. That Great Guardian should have collaborated with an unknown existence to destroy the entire Belleburg. Impossible. Mother, her heart to protect Belleburg is fiercer than anyone else. Blonia retorted angrily. Fierce. Preserved. Hehe. Perhaps I don't have the foresight of that Great Guardian, I can only see him wanting to die with this world in exchange for something. Unknown guests. Please allow me to ask a question. Does Star Corps have its own consciousness? Although Wei Yi was smiling, beneath his false smile lay endless coldness and disdain. The answer is obvious, the Great Guardian Cocolia made a deal with the Star Corps. A deal to destroy civilization, these are just your speculations. Your own imagination. There is no actual evidence at all. Blonia was a bit shaken. Everything she saw and what people in front of her said proved that her mother was wrong. The role she played was not positive either. Hello. Excuse me. Dr. Wei. I have a question. At this moment, Xing raised his hand and said. Wei Yi replied with a smile, excuse me, I will answer everything. But what he didn't expect was that she said a name that made him tremble the next moment. Do you know an old man named Lloyd? He is wearing a butler's uniform and is very elegant and quiet. Chapter 10. The Lost Fool. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Where did you meet this person? The smile that had been hanging on Seven's face disappeared. He looks expressionless now, with no joy or sadness. Well. When we landed on this planet, we saw this old man. He asked us to find the lost young master and ensure his safety. March 7th said weakly. She felt that the doctor in front of her who looked very easy to talk now gave off a frightening aura. How can you prove it? Wei Yi's voice was deep, not knowing whether he was happy or angry, but could only hear the suppressed tone in his tone. Xing didn't care, instead handed him a music box with a smile. He said it's your favorite to hear. He said it's a late birthday gift. Wei Yi gently and slowly opened the music box. A little prince's little man jumped out and began to dance softly and elegantly. I. Soft and gentle music plays, which is not the elegant music of a grand hall, nor the fast-paced music that young people like instead, it feels like a nursery rhyme to soothe children. Oleg and his companions wisely remained silent. Time flows slowly, he will not be at a standstill due to the stillness of human life. Finally, with the last note slowly falling, this serene and beautiful piece of music, like autumn leaves, comes to an end. Hehe, it's really nostalgic. Hahaha. I'm almost in tears. Wei Yi couldn't help but chuckle a few times and said with a somewhat gloomy tone, do you know? This is really the best gift you have given me. He shook his head and said to himself, the inhumane nature of heaven treats all things as cud dogs. Our world of existence. The despair we face. As well as tragedy, sorrow, hatred. What can be considered compared to the vast starry sky? At the next moment, Vi said in a heavy tone, Lloyd, the butler who watched me grow up. He's more like my grandfather than the butler. Most of the knowledge and principles he taught me. So, pioneer. May I ask you, where did you see him? Suburban snowfield. Dan Heng replied. This matter has come to an end, and Wei Yi will definitely repay it with great kindness. Sangbo brothers, come out, I beg you to do something. Wei Yi said. Okay. Going to the snowy countryside, right? In terms of compensation. Well, it's not your friend anymore after all, our relationship. Sangbo walked out from behind a mining car with his usual smile. Okay, thank you very much. Also, goodbye, everyone. I think we may need to say goodbye first. Xier. You. Wei Yi said and looked at Xier. Xier raised her eyebrows and asked, why do you want me to come with you? If you don't want to, forget it. Wei Yi lowered her eyes and murmured. Xier rolled her pretty white eyes and took his hand. Let's go, Oleg, let me take this guy up and take a look first. Oleg grinned and said, Hahaha, go ahead. Let's just meet the parents. Hahaha, it's here if there's nothing else. I'll leave first, and if I want to go back and shout, my old Sangbo, he'll come out. Goodbye. Sanbo ran away with a smile. Wei Yi didn't care and instead held Xier's hand tighter. He came up with a conjecture. If the conjecture is true, they walked forward, and the monsters along the way were not enemies of Seven's unity. At this moment, Xier intuitively felt the powerful strength of the man in front of her. Even the powerful green centaur monster only waved its hand a few more times. Are you? An elegant old man appeared in front of them, but the old man saw them with obvious hesitation and confusion. Vieira pulled Xier forward quickly. Grandpa Lauder, it's me. The old man was stunned for a moment, then carefully looked at the elegant and handsome golden-haired man in front of him, as if he were a sculpture carved by a pure and beautiful star god. This face coincided with a cute and immature face in his memory. Young master. You are. Young master Vi. Finally found you. What happened? I remember I asked you to escape to the lower city. Did you succeed? No. I was confused, and if you could come find me, you would naturally succeed. Lao Lao De picked up the bill of lading glasses and asked, why do you grow so big? It's been over a decade, Grandpa Lloyd. Wei Yi remained silent for a few seconds, then answered softly. Xier stood obediently on the side at this moment, observing the elegant old man without speaking, and she didn't want to disturb them. Has it been over a decade? Hahaha. It seems like I'm dead, old man. Lauder laughed heartily, without any sadness or confusion, but instead gladly accepted this fact. At this point, he also understood that he might just have been created by the rift, about the shadow of the past. Hehe, maybe that's all. His goal has been achieved, and the person he wants to guard has been held. He has lived a life worthy of the name of preservation. If that's the case, what should he feel sad about? Hi, young master, why are you still looking sullen? Who is this young lady? It's impolite of you not to introduce me to the old man and leave him alone for a conversation. As if sensing the low mood of the young master in his own family, the old man smiled and changed the topic, his tone being consistent, as if it was the same as before. Ha! Her name is Xier. You once told me that when I find the person I can devote myself to, I find the meaning of emotions. I used to be unable to answer you. The next moment, he straightened his back and said proudly and joyfully, like a child showing off his treasures to his elders, now I can proudly tell you. Xier. It's the key that opens my soul. For her. I'm willing to give everything I want. All. Gum. Xier turned into Xingtie directly, her whole face turning red and she even stuttered when speaking. Hello, Grandpa Lloyd. I am Xier, yes, I am Wei Yi's adopted sister in the lower city area. Lloyd showed a brilliant smile, wishing that the wrinkles left by time on his face would disappear with a smile. Okay. Okay. What a beautiful girl. Our young master is naturally lacking in emotions. Is there anything wrong with his daily life? I hope you can take more care of it. The old man held Xier's hand, his eyes growing fonder and more beautiful as he looked at her. This name sounds like a gentle and considerate child. All right. All right. It's really a blessing for VII to meet you. Wei Yi smiled lightly on the side without refuting, just nodded incessantly. Grandpa Lloyd, she is my future wife. I brought her to meet you this time to fulfill the promise I made back then. Xier's ears tinted directly, and her brain crashed on the spot. The whole person froze. Wife. Wife. Wife oh, asterisk / asterisk. Q, okay, okay. Hahaha. Old man, I'll die with no regrets. As he spoke, old Lauda's body began to gradually become transparent at the end. Lloyd looked at Vi with a loving gaze, his tone soft and cheerful like a snow fox lightly skimming over the snow. Haha, young master. I'm really happy to see you now. I know you're very thoughtful, but let go and do what you think is right. Even if it's foolish in the eyes of others. After speaking, he disappeared between heaven and earth, leaving only white snow all over the sky. A bracelet fell into his hand, elegant and simple, like the life of the old butler Lloyd. Are you foolish? Hehe. Maybe the world just needs me as a fool. The new world. Hehe, it's better to create it yourself.